Peter, thanks for being with us. How much polyester did you find in the Arctic, and how did it get there?
Well, the shocking thing is that we found polyester in every single sample of seawater we collected between Norway, the North Pole, the Canadian Arctic archipelago, and throughout the Beaufort Sea. On average, 49 particles of plastic, microplastic, in every cubic meter of seawater. 92% of the particles that we encountered were fibers, between 10 and 14 1,000th of a millimeter, of different colors, and 73% of those were polyester.
And so, Peter, how did it get there?
Well, this is something that we're looking into. We surmise, based on the patterns that we observed, that the North Atlantic Ocean is playing a significant role in delivering a lot of these microplastics up into the Arctic Ocean. So that's simply a mechanism to transport microplastics up into the Arctic by virtue of ocean currents that are fairly well understood. But we can't rule out that there might be a cloud of atmospheric distribution of these polyester fibers coming from the deep south, coming from industrial and urbanized areas in North America and Europe.
And so what is the impact on the sea life there that Nunavummiut rely on?
Well, of course, this is a concern that has long been appreciated, I think, between Indigenous knowledge, Western science, and policymakers dealing with the Arctic. The Arctic is vulnerable to a number of impacts that are not typically associated with activities within the Arctic. We can think of industrial chemicals like PCBs that have traveled many thousands of kilometers to end up easily in the Arctic and in Arctic food webs. We can think of climate change that is changing the sea ice extent and the distribution and behaviors and abundances of wildlife species that are valued as country foods. And now we can see microplastics with a dominant footprint from laundry, from the south, from southern Canada, from the United States, and from Europe, getting up into the Arctic. I don't suspect there are dramatic consequences for the biology and ecology of the sea life in the Arctic, but I would put it out there that these particles really have no role to play that is beneficial to Arctic ecosystems, and they may spell trouble down the road if trends in the release of wastewater effluent and the design of clothing that sheds millions of fibers with every load of laundry continues. So that's what I think I'm most concerned about, is what these plastic pieces and fibers will do over the long term when they're ingested, when they're mistaken for food by small creatures at the bottom of the food chain, like zooplankton or baby Arctic cod or other species that are of profound value to the entire ecosystem health in the Arctic.
With that all in mind, is there something that we can all do to keep these fibers out of our waterways?
Well, I think there is. And the good news in this bad news story is that everybody really gets the plastic pollution problem. We have school kids doing projects on them. We have industry looking into better designs, green designs, more sustainable practices. We have governments taking up initiatives with regard to at the G7 and the G20 and the OECD. So there's lots of activities locally, globally, and across Canada. What we can do as individuals is pay attention, become informed about the dominant types of plastics we're finding in the ocean. And if we look at macroplastics, we can think of fishing debris, derelict fishing gear, vessels, ropes, lines. We find them on beaches. We find them floating around in the ocean. Canada has announced a major program to start cleaning those really problematic items up. We know that municipalities have been playing a very strong role in Canada to ban single-use packaging, straws, throwaway beverage containers, food containers, takeout food containers, etc. And then with textiles, interestingly, the sector that makes clothes is actually quite concerned about this. And we've been working with a number of firms to encourage them to design clothing that sheds less during laundry, so that we can not go down the path of having sweaters lose 10 or 12 million fibers per laundry cycle, but reduce that greatly. So there is an opportunity for better design. There's an opportunity for homeowners to install lint traps that can reduce your one's loss of up to 95% of the microfibers released by a washing machine. And finally, wastewater treatment plant technologies exist to help retain, at least, not destroy, but retain those microplastics and microfibers that enter the wastewater stream so that we can prevent them from entering the environment. So I think there's grounds for optimism because everybody's engaged, everybody's concerned, and there's a tremendous amount of entrepreneurial spirit to tap into a growing economic set of opportunities to solve the plastic waste problem.
Well, Peter, it is fascinating and frightening, but glad to know that there's something that can be done. Appreciate you taking some time for us here.
You're most welcome.